My wife announced, "I'm pregnant, but I'm not sure if it's yours." I told her there was no problem. Then I scheduled a DNA test. What the doctor told us was worse than I thought. I went scorched earth. Hey Reddit. My wife told me she was pregnant, then sobbed because she wasn't sure if it was mine or not. So I played the long game. Told her we can work through this while I plotted her destruction. Grab your popcorn. This is going to be unpredictable and definitely delicious. I'm Lucian, 32 male. I was 3 days into my home stretch after hauling freight from Seattle for 2 weeks straight when my wife Susan walked into the kitchen and nuked our marriage. I'd been up since 5 making breakfast, actually enjoying being home for once, thinking about catching up on sleep, maybe finally fixing that garage door that had been squeaking like a dying cat for a month. She walked in holding a pregnancy test like it was a winning lottery ticket. Said we needed to talk. Here's the thing. I'm a truck driver. Long haul. I'm gone 2, sometimes 3 weeks at a time. Home for 4 or 5 days between runs. Been doing it for 8 years now. The money's solid. Cleared $95,000 last year. And honestly, I like it. Just me, the road, whatever podcast I'm binging that week. It's peaceful. Susan and I had been married 3 years, together for 5 total. We talked about kids in that vague, someday way couples do when they're not actually ready but don't want to admit it. So, when she said she was pregnant, I turned off the stove and sat down. Unexpected, sure, but not terrible. We're both 32. We own our house. Financially stable. Could be worse, right? Then came the follow-up that made my brain short-circuit, but I'm not sure if it's yours or Emory's. Emory from her office. Emory, who'd been texting her constantly for months. Emory, who she swore was just a work friend when I'd asked about him 6 months back. That dang Emory. I looked at her standing there and realized she'd rehearsed this moment. The timing, the delivery. This was calculated damage control. Tell me everything, I said. Cue the waterworks. It happened during the Henderson project about 6 weeks ago. Late nights at the office. High stress. Things just happened. It was only once or twice, maybe 3 times. I couldn't remember. I'm confused. I still love you. The pregnancy was a wake-up call. I want to make it work. She cried and babbled the usual lines. I sat there doing the math in my head. 6 weeks ago, I'd been hauling through the Midwest. Gone 16 days straight. Came home for 5 days. And during those 5 days home, she'd been all over me. Initiated sex more than usual. Problems I didn't know we had until that exact moment. Let me make sure I understand, I said, setting my coffee down real carefully. While I was hauling freight through 3 time zones, eating gas station garbage, and sleeping in my cab, you were sleeping with your coworker. Then, when I got home, you were sleeping with both of us. Maybe on back-to-back days, and now you're knocked up and don't know who the father is. She got defensive real quick. It sounds worse when you say it like that. I'm trying to be honest here. I could have just let you think it was yours, right? I should be grateful. She doubled down on the crying. Kept saying she was being transparent, that she was trying to do the right thing now, that we could get through this together, that the baby could bring us closer. The manipulation was honestly impressive. Textbook gaslighting. I stayed calm. Didn't yell, didn't throw anything, just looked at her and said, "All right, we'll schedule a DNA test. Figure out whose kid it is. Then we'll talk." She actually looked shocked. "You're not mad." "I'm furious," I said. "But anger won't change biology. When can we do the test?" Turns out we had to wait until she was at least 9 weeks pregnant for the prenatal blood test, or wait until after birth. Blood test. Make the appointment, I told her. She hugged me then, full breakdown mode, crying about how understanding I was, how she knew I'd be an amazing father, how this mistake didn't change our marriage. I hugged her back, told her it would be okay. Then I went upstairs, locked myself in the bathroom, and started planning my exit strategy, because I'm not the forgiving husband she thought she married. I'm the guy who just got handed all the ammunition he needs. That afternoon, I called Robin. We went to high school together and stayed tight over the years. He's a divorce lawyer now. Handles high net worth cases downtown. I'd helped him move 3 times. He owed me. "Quick legal question," I said when he picked up. If someone admits to adultery, how's that play out in divorce court? There was a pause, chair creaking on his end. What happened? Susan cheated on me with a coworker. She's pregnant. Doesn't know if it's mine or his. He let out this low whistle. Good grief. You recording this conversation? No. Why? Get a recording, text message, email, anything in writing. Admission of adultery in our state affects alimony and asset division big time. Document everything from this point forward. Everything. You hearing me? Loud and clear. House in both names. Just mine, bought it before we got married. Good. Real good. Shared accounts. Checking account. 1 credit card. Close them today. Open new accounts in your name only. Transfer your direct deposits. She doesn't get to drain your money while you're gone. We talked for another 30 minutes. He laid out the whole playbook. Document everything. Lock down finances. Don't let her know you're preparing. Stay calm. Don't give her anything to use against you. File first when the time's right. I hung up and got to work. First, I went to her iPad. Still logged into her iCloud because she never bothered with security. I backed up every message with Emory to 3 different cloud drives. Nothing pornographic, but plenty of thinking about you. And can't wait to see you again. Screenshots of everything. All dated and time-stamped. Second, phone records. Check them online. She'd been calling Emory 2 to 3 times a day for 4 months. Texts constantly, even when I was home, even during our anniversary dinner back in June. Downloaded 6 months' worth. Third, the bank. Moved 70% of our joint checking, about $12,600 out of $18,000, into a new account at a different bank. Left enough to cover the bills. Canceled the joint credit card. Opened a new one solo. Changed my direct deposit routing. She worked as a project manager at some tech company. Made decent money, around $62,000, but nowhere near what I pulled in. I'd been the primary earner the entire marriage. Robin said that mattered. Then I called Emory's office, found his direct line, asked for him by name. "This is Emory Delgado," he answered. "Hey, this is Susan's husband. We need to talk about her pregnancy." Click. He hung up immediately. I called back 5 minutes later from a different number. "Look, I didn't know she was married," he started fast. "She doesn't wear a ring at work." "She has a ring. I bought it. 3-carat diamond, princess cut, white gold band. It's on her left hand." Silence. "She's pregnant," I continued. "Says it might be yours. How many times did you sleep with my wife, Emory?" "I don't know. Maybe 4 or 5 times." "It can't be mine. 4 or 5 times. That's not a mistake. That's a relationship." "It wasn't like that. We were working late and things just happened. She said you guys were having problems." "Really? What problems?" "She said you were never home, that you ignored her, that your relationship was basically over." "I'm a truck driver, Emory. I work 2 weeks, home 5 days, same schedule for 8 years. She knew that when she married me. That's not problems. That's my job. Look, I don't want any trouble. I'm engaged. Getting married in 4 months. My fiancé can't know about this." "What's her name?" "Alyssa." "Why does that?" I hung up. Spent that evening setting up some discrete cameras in my truck. Then logged into our shared cell phone account and enabled location tracking on Susan's phone. She'd never bothered checking the family plan settings. Why would she? That night, she came home from work acting completely normal. Made dinner, talked about her day. I just nodded along. Didn't mention my afternoon activities. Just played the supportive husband. She had zero clue what was coming. The DNA test appointment got scheduled for 2 weeks out. Susan she had to be at least 9 weeks along for accurate results. That gave me time to set up the dominoes. I had a 10-day haul scheduled to leave in 3 days. Susan asked if I could postpone it, stay home, support her through this difficult time. "Can't postpone," I told her. "Bills don't pay themselves. Baby's going to need diapers, cribs, college funds. Someone's got to work." She got annoyed. "You're always working. This is more important." I'll be back before the appointment, I said. That's what matters. Cold shoulder until I left. I didn't give a damn. I had work to do. During that 10-day haul, I checked her location like a hawk. She went to work every day like clockwork. But 3 times she deviated from her usual route home. Each time, she stopped at the same apartment complex across town for 2 to 3 hours. I screenshot every location ping, then cross-referenced the address with Emory's info. Bingo. Same address. She was still seeing him. The pregnancy confession hadn't slowed her down at all. Day 7. I'm fueling up in Iowa when I get a notification. Susan's location shows her at a hotel downtown. 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. She stayed until 11:30. Saved every screenshot. The next morning, I called the hotel. Yeah. Hey, trying to track down my wife, who mentioned staying there last night. Susan Davidson. They confirmed she checked in with a male guest. Paid cash. She used her real name. The audacity on this woman. When I got home after the 10-day run, she was in full wife mode. Made my favorite dinner. House spotless, acting affectionate, playing normal. I played along. Didn't mention that I knew she'd been with Emory 4 times while I was gone. Just smiled, nodded, and let her think she had me fooled. The night before the DNA test, she brought up the results. What if it's Emory's? What happens then? We'll deal with it when we know for sure. Would you stay? Would you raise the baby as yours? That's a pretty big ass, Susan. But you love me. We're married. That's what marriage is, supporting each other through hard times. She was testing me, seeing how far she could push. We'll see what the results say, I told her. Then we'll decide. She looked disappointed. I slept in the guest room that night. She didn't argue. The next morning, we drove to the clinic separately. She took her CRV. I took my truck, parked 3 blocks away, and walked. In the waiting room, she held my hand, played the nervous, expectant mother, scrolling through baby name websites, showing me cribs on Amazon. The whole performance. I just watched her. Realized I'd been married to this person for 3 years and never actually saw who she was. Never noticed the manipulation. Never caught the lies. Just believed whatever she told me, because that's what you do when you trust someone. Big mistake. Lesson learned. The nurse called us back, drew Susan's blood, then turned to me for my sample. Susan was watching me, waiting for me to roll up my sleeve, prove my commitment, show I was all in. I stood up and walked toward the door. Where are you going? She asked. Getting some air. They need your blood sample. They'll get it. Just need a minute. I walked out to the parking lot and called Robin. She's trying to lock me in, I said. Make sure I'm committed before results come back. Don't give her anything, he said. Stay neutral. Document everything. We're close. I went back inside after 10 minutes, rolled up my sleeve, let them take my blood. Susan relaxed immediately. Shoulders dropped. Face softened. She thought she'd won. Thought I was all in. Then I dropped the bomb. By the way, I said casually, like I was mentioning the weather. I invited Emory. He should be here soon. Susan's face went white. What? For the DNA test. He's a potential father. Should be included. Standard protocol. You invited him here? And his fiancée Alyssa. They should know too. Transparency, right? Isn't that what you wanted? She stood up fast, started backing toward the door like a cornered animal. You can't do this. Why not? We all need answers. Everyone involved deserves the truth. The nurse looked confused as heck. Dr. John came in, asked what was happening. I explained calmly that there was another potential father arriving shortly for testing, that we wanted to test all possibilities, complex situation, and all that. Susan tried to bolt. I blocked the door. Didn't touch her, just stood there. She'd have to physically shove me aside in front of witnesses, make a scene. She couldn't do it without looking guilty. 10 minutes later, Emory walked in with Alyssa, both looking uncomfortable as heck. Emory in his work khakis and button-down. Alyssa in scrubs from her dental office. Susan saw them and literally tried to run, just straight bolted for the exit like a deer. Emory grabbed her arm. We need to talk, he said quietly, firmly. Alyssa looked at Susan with pure disgust. So, you're the bitch who's been sleeping with my fiancé. The clinic waiting room turned into a disaster zone real quick. Dr. John tried to maintain order, but it was like herding feral cats. Susan was screaming at me for ambushing her. You had no right. This is private. This is between us. Emory was doing the whole hands-up peacemaker routine, trying to calm everyone down. Alyssa was on her phone texting someone, probably her mom or best friend, calling in reinforcements. I just sat there watching it all unfold, like I'd paid $12 for the show. Better than anything on Netflix. This was unnecessary, Susan hissed at me. This is private between us. Nothing's private when 3 people are involved, I said, calm as hell. Everyone deserves the truth. You said you wanted transparency, right? Well, here it is. You're a jerk, she said loud enough that other patients looked over. Dr. John finally got control. Separated everyone into different rooms. Drew Emory's blood. The dude looked like he was going to pass out. Kept muttering, "This can't be happening," under his breath. He explained results would take about a week. Sent us all home with instructions not to contact each other. Gave the whole speech about patient privacy and medical ethics and keeping things civil. Susan rode home with me. Didn't have a choice. I'd parked my truck blocking her car in at the Walgreens. She stood there fuming while I took my sweet time unlocking the door, adjusting my seat, checking my mirrors, making her wait. The entire drive home, she ran through every manipulation tactic in the book, crying, yelling, guilt trips, threats, blaming me for making this harder than it needed to be. Blaming me for humiliating her. Blaming me for not trusting her. I was trying to be honest, and you punished me for it, she screamed, like she was the victim. I didn't respond. Just drove. Kept my eyes on the road. Let her exhaust herself. Let her show me exactly who she really was. Every accusation, every insult, every manipulation attempt just played out while I drove the speed limit and listened to sports radio at low volume. When we got home, she went straight to the bedroom, slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I could hear her on the phone immediately through the door, probably calling her mother or her sister Mira, spinning the story, painting me as the villain, getting sympathy, building her narrative. He ambushed me, I heard through the door. He's being so cruel. I don't know what to do. I went to the garage, made some calls of my own. Robin answered on the second ring. How'd it go? Perfect, I said, sitting in my truck, door closed, engine off. Got Emory and his fiancée as witnesses. Got Susan on camera, having a breakdown. Got enough evidence to prove adultery and emotional manipulation. What's next? File for divorce tomorrow, before results come back. I want to control the narrative. Good, he said. First to file has the advantage. What about the baby? Doesn't matter. If it's yours, you'll pay child support. If it's not, you're free. Either way, the marriage is done. File first. Set the terms. Don't let her get ahead of this. He emailed me the paperwork. I filled it out that night in the garage while Susan was asleep. Sat at my workbench filling out forms, grounds for divorce, adultery, proof, screenshots, phone records, location tracking data, text message logs, witness testimony from Emory admitting to the affair, hotel receipts, everything organized in a 3-ring binder with color-coded tabs. Requested full ownership of the house, my personal vehicles, my work truck, and my F-150, my retirement accounts, all my tools, all my mechanic gear, truck equipment, everything. She could have her personal stuff and her car. That's it. No alimony. No shared assets. Clean break. Robin filed the papers first thing the next morning. Susan was served at her office at 2 p.m. by a professional process server. Some guy in a suit-wearing guy walked right up to Susan's desk at work and handed her the divorce papers in front of all her coworkers. She called me 17 times in 20 minutes. I didn't answer a single one. Just let them all go to voicemail. I saved every message, each one more desperate than the last. Pick up. We need to talk. You can't do this. Call me back, please. She came home around 6, stormed in, and threw the divorce papers at me. They scattered across the kitchen floor. "What is this?" she demanded. "What it looks like," I said. "You're divorcing me because of one mistake." 4 or 5 mistakes with Emory, according to him, I said. Plus however many with that conference guy in March. Rick from the Denver office, right? So no, not one mistake, multiple conscious choices over several months. Her voice trailed off mid-sentence, as she realized she'd just confirmed the conference guy, without meaning to. Her face changed instantly, went from angry to scared. "You've been planning this. Gathering evidence." "I've been protecting myself. You're punishing me for being honest." "You weren't honest, Susan. You got caught. You got pregnant and couldn't hide it anymore. So, you told me just enough to seem honest, while still minimizing the damage. That's not honesty, that's damage control." She switched tactics fast, tears begging, promising to cut contact with Emory, promising counseling. "I'll do anything. Please don't throw away our marriage. We can fix this. I'll change." The whole performance. "I'm going on a run," I told her. "Leaving tonight. Back in 12 days. I want you moved out before I get back." "This is my house too." "No, it's my house. Your name's not on the deed. Not on the mortgage. Check the paperwork if you don't believe me." "You can't kick me out. I'm pregnant. Maybe with my kid. Maybe not. Either way, you've got 12 days to find somewhere else to live. Pack your stuff, leave your key on the counter." I loaded up the truck and left. Didn't look back. Had a load going to Portland, 3-day drive. Plenty of time to think. 5 days into a southwest run, somewhere between Flagstaff and Phoenix. Nothing but desert and heat waves on both sides. My phone rang. Dr. John's office. The DNA results were ready. Could I come in? "I'm in Arizona," I told them, pulling off at a rest stop to take the call. "Can you email them? We prefer to deliver results in person. It's our policy. I'll be back in a week. Can it wait?" There was a professional pause. "I think you should come in sooner if possible. There are some complications." My stomach dropped. Complications? How? "I really can't discuss it over the phone. Medical privacy laws. But if you could come in, that would be best." I turned the truck around right there. Called my dispatcher. Told him it was a family emergency and I needed someone to pick up my load. Then I drove straight through from Arizona to home. 18 hours. Stopped once for fuel and food at a Flying J outside Albuquerque. Made it back in record time. Averaged 65 the whole way. When I got home, Susan had already moved out like I'd asked. Left the house mostly empty. Took furniture that wasn't hers, the couch we bought together, the dining room table, the kitchen chairs. She even took my TV, the 65-inch Samsung I'd bought on Black Friday. Kitchen appliances, the KitchenAid mixer, the Keurig. But the best part? She left passive-aggressive notes everywhere. One on the bathroom mirror written in lipstick. "Hope you're happy." Another on the fridge. "This is what you wanted, right?" Petty as heck. I didn't care. Material stuff can be replaced. My peace of mind couldn't. I'd buy a new TV, a new couch, whatever. Small price for freedom. The next morning at 9, I met Dr. John in her office. Diplomas on the wall. Family photos on her desk. She had that look doctors get when they're about to deliver complicated news. "Mr. Davidson," she started, "the results are unusual. Just tell me, you are not the biological father." Expected. I nodded. "Okay. Mr. Delgado is also not the biological father." "Wait, what? Neither of you are the father." The DNA testing revealed a third party. "There's a third guy?" "Based on the genetic markers, yes, someone else entirely. The fetal DNA doesn't match either of the samples we tested." She handed me the printed results, official letterhead, lab stamps, genetic markers listed in columns I didn't understand. But the conclusion was crystal clear. Alleged father 1 me, excluded. Alleged father 2 Emory, excluded. Actual biological father, unknown. I stared at the papers. All that drama, all that planning, all that evidence gathering. And the kid wasn't mine or Emory's. It was some mystery guy. Some other dude, Susan had also been sleeping with. How many guys was she juggling? There's one more thing, Dr. John continued. When we ran your wife's blood work, we discovered something. She's not currently pregnant. Silence. Come again. She had what's called a chemical pregnancy, a very early miscarriage. The pregnancy was never viable. It ended within the first few weeks, probably shortly after she took the home test. The pregnancy hormones were still in her system when she tested positive, which is why the home test showed positive, but there was no ongoing pregnancy. So there's no baby. Correct. No viable pregnancy. It ended naturally, very early on. And the DNA you tested came from this chemical pregnancy that's already gone. Correct. The fetal DNA was still present in her bloodstream when we drew blood. That's how we determined paternity or non-paternity, in this case. But the pregnancy itself had already terminated. Let me get this straight, I said. Susan got pregnant with some third random guy's kid, not mine, not Emory's, some other dude, then miscarried before the DNA test even happened. But not before putting me through weeks of torment. Not before exposing her affair. Not before I filed for divorce and kicked her out. She nuked everything for a pregnancy that didn't even exist anymore. Lucky me. Can I get copies of these results? She printed everything. Test results, lab reports, analysis showing 3 different male DNA samples tested. None matching the fetal DNA. All documented, all official. Medical records with signatures, dates, and stamps. I called Robin from the parking lot, sat in my truck, and told him everything. He started laughing. You're kidding. Nope. Got the paperwork right here. Medical records, lab results, everything. That makes the divorce even easier, he said. Adultery with multiple partners. Paternity fraud attempt. Even if she didn't know about the third guy, she was still lying about it being yours. This is going to be the fastest uncontested divorce I've ever filed. What if she tries to fight it? Let her try. We have location data, phone records, her own admission, DNA evidence proving the kid wasn't yours, proof of multiple affairs, proof she was lying about paternity. No judge is going to side with her. This is slam dunk territory. What do I do now? Nothing. Let me handle it. Just live your life. Stay calm. Don't contact her. Don't engage. I hung up, sat there in my truck, thinking about Susan finding out the results. Realizing she'd burned down her marriage for nothing. Exposed herself as a serial cheater for a pregnancy that didn't even exist anymore. Slept with at least 3 different guys while married to me. And now, she was about to lose everything. Karma was handling my revenge better than I ever could. Susan found out about the DNA results the same way I did. Dr. John called her in for a separate meeting and delivered the news. Then she called me. 17 missed calls, 23 text messages. All variations of "we need to talk. This doesn't change anything. We can still work this out." I didn't respond. Robin had advised complete radio silence, unless through lawyers. Let the court handle everything. Don't give her ammunition. Just silence. She showed up at my house 3 days later. I'd already changed the locks, Schlage deadbolts, the good kind. And she lost her mind. Pounded on the door for 20 minutes, screaming about how I couldn't keep her out of her own home, how she'd call the cops. Neighbors were watching. Mr. Miller across the street came out on his porch with a drink just to watch the show. I called the cops first. Yeah, I need an officer at my address. My estranged wife is trespassing and refusing to leave. I've filed for divorce, and she's making threats. They showed up in 12 minutes, 2 officers, a young guy and an older woman. They listened to Susan rant about her rights and her home and her marriage. Then they asked to see the deed. I showed them my name only. Then the divorce papers, filed and served. They explained to her that she wasn't on the deed, she'd been served, and she needed to leave. She tried to argue. They didn't care. "Ma'am," the older officer said flatly, "you need to leave the property. Now, or we'll arrest you for trespassing," the officer said. She left, peeled out in her CRV, tires squealing. 2 days later, her lawyer contacted Robin. Susan was contesting the divorce, claiming emotional distress, saying I'd abandoned her during her miscarriage. even though I didn't even know about the miscarriage until after I'd filed, claiming I'd kicked her out illegally, and that she deserved half of everything because Washington's a community property state. Robin sent over the evidence package, all of it. The whole binder, everything neatly organized with tabs and highlights. Her lawyer dropped her case a week later, called Robin, and said, "I can't represent this," then just straight up quit. Susan had to find new representation, but she wasn't done. She escalated. She called my employer, somehow got through to the safety department, and told them I was mentally unstable, that I'd been harassing her, that I was a danger to myself and others on the road, that they should suspend my CDL, that I was having emotional breakdowns, and shouldn't be driving an 80,000-pound vehicle. My boss, Randy, called me in. "What the heck is going on?" "I got your wife calling," he said. I showed him everything, the divorce paperwork, the evidence, the DNA results, laid it all out on his desk. He looked at me and said, "This is the craziest stuff I've ever seen. Take 2 weeks off, paid. Get this sorted. Come back when your head's clear. And tell your ex-wife if she calls here again, I'll file harassment charges myself." Then Susan filed a restraining order, went to court, claimed I'd threatened her, claimed I'd been stalking her, asked for a temporary protection order. Robin tore it apart in court, showed the judge I hadn't contacted her once since serving papers, that I'd gone completely no contact, that all contact had been initiated by her. We had phone records proving she'd called me over 100 times and I'd answered 0. She'd shown up at my house and I'd called the cops. She was the one doing the harassing. The judge denied her restraining order, actually got annoyed. "Ms. Davidson, filing false claims wastes this court's time. If you file another frivolous motion, I'll hold you in contempt. Do you understand?" She left the courthouse crying, total breakdown. I watched from across the parking lot, felt absolutely nothing. Then she went nuclear. Social media blast. A long Facebook rant about her miscarriage, about how I'd abandoned her in her darkest hour, about how I'd kicked her out while she was grieving, about how I was a monster who cared more about revenge than our marriage, about how truck drivers are never home and how lonely she'd been, how I'd neglected her and forced her to seek comfort elsewhere. The post got shared hundreds of times. Everyone suddenly had opinions. People I hadn't talked to in years were commenting, taking sides. I didn't respond, didn't defend myself. Let her dig her own grave. Robin told me to screenshot everything, though. Then Emory's fiancée, Alyssa, commented a long, detailed response explaining exactly what happened. She tagged screenshots of everything, phone records, text messages, DNA results, the whole evidence package. Made it all public. "Since we're sharing stories," her comment started, "here's the truth. Susan's post got deleted within an hour. But screenshots live forever. The damage was done. Everyone who defended her now saw the truth. Her reputation was torched. People who'd called me a monster were now apologizing. She was alone. Meanwhile, I was back on the road, working, saving money, living peacefully. But I wanted one final move. One last piece that would stick with her forever. The thing about being a truck driver, you meet a lot of people, spend time in different cities, make connections. You build a network without even really trying. One of those connections was Tommy. Worked in HR at Susan's company. We'd met at a truck stop outside Dallas 3 years back when his car broke down and I helped him get it running with my jumper pack. We stayed in touch after that. "Hey man, hope you're doing well" kind of friendship. I called Tommy, explained my situation, the divorce, the affair, the whole disaster. Asked if he knew Emory Delgado. He did. Asked if he knew about Emory and Susan's affair. He'd heard rumors around the office, water cooler talk. People had noticed them leaving together, going to lunch constantly. The chemistry was obvious. "Can you do me a favor?" I asked. "Can you check if there's a company policy about workplace relationships?" He called me back 2 hours later. "Yeah, man. There's a policy, a strict one. No relationships between coworkers, especially not affairs involving married employees. The company got sued a few years back over a harassment thing, so they made the rules really strict." "Has anyone reported Emory and Susan?" "Not officially," Tommy said. But if someone filed a formal complaint with evidence, HR would have to investigate. Company policy. They can't ignore it. What if someone had documentation? I asked. Tommy went quiet. I could hear him thinking. That would trigger an immediate investigation. Both of them would be questioned separately. If the evidence was solid, they'd both be terminated. No exceptions. The company doesn't mess around with this anymore. I had everything time-stamped and documented. I compiled it into a professional report, printed it on good paper at FedEx office, attached all the evidence, organized by date, highlighted key sections, and mailed it anonymously to HR with a typed letter explaining that 2 employees were having an affair violating company policy. I attached all the evidence: phone records, text screenshots, location data, timeline. Send it certified mail so I'd know when it was received. The investigation took 3 weeks. Susan and Emory both got called and separately, both interviewed, both confronted with evidence they couldn't deny. Emory threw Susan under the bus immediately, told HR she'd initiated everything, that she'd pursued him aggressively, that she'd been flirting for months, that he'd tried to end it multiple times, but she'd pressured him, said she'd threatened to tell his fiancée if he didn't keep seeing her, that he felt harassed by her constant contact. Completely changed his story from what he told me on the phone. Susan tried to deny it at first. This is fake. Someone's framing me. Then she tried to claim it was consensual and not against policy. We're both adults. What we do outside work doesn't matter. She tried to claim harassment when that didn't work. Emory was my supervisor. I felt pressured. Nothing stuck. The evidence was too solid. They were both fired the same day. Susan for violating company policy, creating a hostile work environment, and using company resources for personal matters. Emory for the same reasons, plus providing false statements during the investigation and throwing his coworker under the bus. HR doesn't like liars. Susan called me that night. First time I'd answered her call in 4 months. Only picked up because I wanted to hear it. You did this, she said, voice shaking. You got me fired. I didn't do anything. You got yourself fired by having an affair at work with a coworker and being dumb enough to leave evidence everywhere. I said. Actions have consequences. I'll sue you, she snapped. I'll take you for everything. Good luck with that. You have 0 evidence I was involved. And even if you did, everything that happened was a direct result of your own choices. You cheated. You lied. You committed paternity fraud. You filed false restraining orders. You posted defamatory content online. All I did was protect myself legally and move on with my life. I'm going to lose everything, she cried. My job, my career, my reputation, everything. You already lost those things, Susan. The day you decided sleeping with multiple coworkers was worth more than your marriage. I'm just making sure the consequences match the actions. She started crying, real crying, not manipulation crying. I'm going to lose my apartment. I can't pay rent without my job. I have nothing left. Should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on your husband with 3 different guys. Choices have consequences. Welcome to reality. She hung up. 2 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. The judge ruled in my favor on everything. I kept the house, my vehicles, my work truck, and my personal F-150, my retirement accounts, my tools, all my equipment, everything. Susan got her personal belongings and her car. That's it. No alimony. No shared assets. Clean break. The judge also ordered her to pay my legal fees. Robin had billed over $28,000 for the case. All the evidence gathering, court appearances, motions, responses to her nonsense claims. She had to liquidate what little savings she had left to cover it. She tried to argue she couldn't afford it. The judge didn't care. But the revenge didn't stop there. Emory's fiancée, Alyssa, had broken off their engagement after the DNA test results. Took the ring back, a 3-carat diamond. Probably cost him $15,000. Kicked him out of their apartment. He'd moved back in with his parents at 31. Lost his job. Lost his relationship. Lost his reputation in their industry. Word had spread about why he'd been fired. He was having trouble finding new work. Every job he applied to called his previous employer for references, and HR would give a factual account of why he'd been terminated. Violated company policy regarding workplace relationships. The conference guy, Rick, I'd done some digging through Susan's old emails and found him. Eventually, he came out of the woodwork through a mutual friend. Turns out his wife had found text messages between him and Susan from that Denver conference in March. She'd hired a lawyer, filed for divorce, and took him for everything: the house, the cars, the retirement. She had 2 kids. He was living in a studio apartment, paying massive alimony and child support for the next 15 years. A year later, I met someone new, another truck driver, actually Vivian. We'd crossed paths at a way station in Nevada, both getting our trucks inspected the same day. We started talking. She was funny and sharp. We exchanged numbers, started talking over CB radio on long hauls through Montana, text messages during downtime, video calls when we were both parked for the night. We started dating long distance, which worked perfectly for our schedules. She was honest, straightforward, basic stuff that shouldn't be impressive, but was, after dealing with Susan. We've been together 8 months now, taking it slow. No rush. But it's good, healthy, built on mutual respect and trust. As for Susan, last I heard, she was still in Seattle, still working retail management, making decent money, but nothing like before. Still playing the victim on whatever new social media accounts she's created. Still blaming everyone else for the consequences of her own actions. Some people never learn. Me? I learned everything I needed to. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Protect yourself. Never accept disrespect just to keep the peace. Go nuclear when someone tries to play you. The revenge was satisfying, but the real victory was the peace that came after. Susan thought she was playing chess. Turns out, she was playing checkers against someone who'd already memorized every move she'd make. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.